My name is Gary Thompson. I own Galería Pacifico, and this is the 17th season out of the last 18 years that we've sponsored this tour. I'm retiring myself out of it as much as I can, so I'm going to get you started. And my esteemed colleague, Memo Lira, who owns a professional tour company called Vallarta 101, with a very comprehensive website. You can get to him that way, and you can also talk to him during this tour. This is an entire, this is a free tour. You don't have to do anything at the end. I don't even charge to use the bathroom. At any rate, it's totally volunteer, and I'm only going to bring it up 30, 40 more times. Low pressure. So we're going to start with the sculpture behind me, which is called Millennium, and it was installed in 2001 to commemorate the third millennium. It was done by a man who signs this work, Matas Lidase, but that's an artistic nom de plume, and we know him as Fernando Baños, a former restaurateur, city official, including director of culture, a professor of history and philosophy, and throughout most of his life, a bronze sculptor specializing in the female nude, as is the top of the sculpture. We'll get to that. But first we're going to start with the waves. The sculpture's in two basic parts, starting with the waves and the striated section going up to the mandala. The mandala being a symbol of Christ. On the other side there's the hands of Christ, indicating that that's when we start counting the millenniums. The reason he started with the waves is because many scientists believe that the first spark of life happened from underwater volcanoes in the sea. And he then starts with, at the bottom, an atom of carbon, a DNA chain, various primitive creatures, trachobites I think they're called, leading up to marine creatures that we have in the bay now, lobsters, for example. Every waiter in every restaurant every day says, "Today I recommend a lobster." I wonder why. Okay, starting at that point, at the end of these millions of millennia that happened before the birth of Christ, the artist was tasked with the challenge of how do you pick one person to symbolize 1,000 years of culture and achievement. And he chose Charlemagne because he was a warrior king who represented a transition from the Roman Empire to what would eventually become what we know as Europe, a mishmash of many different countries. He's portrayed with his muscles like a bodybuilder. He's in combat. He was a warrior king. He's holding in one hand a sword that has two blades, a Christian blade and a Muslim scimitar blade. In the other hand, the oak leaf cluster crown of the Roman Empire in his other hand, as if he'd pulled it off the head. His physique, I like to point out, features a major six-pack and a minor package. Poor Charlemagne. At any rate, for the second millennium, the artist thought that he should turn to North America, because at the end of that millennium, the United States was arguably the most powerful nation in the world. That's more in doubt now. But at any rate, working in the second millennium to come up with this idea, he chose North America. But he went further south and chose an Aztec king, Netzaqueotl. who used to be on the red 100 peso bill. There's still a few in circulation. I don't happen to have one. But at any rate, Nezacoyotl means young coyote, which reminds me of my name in Spanish, Perro Viejo, which means old dog. At any rate, Nezacoyotl was kind of like an Aztec Renaissance man. He did everything. He was an astronomer, a mathematician, a religious leader, a general, and the emperor. He is holding in one hand a globe which portrays North America on one side and the so-called dark side of the moon from NASA photos on the other side. In his other hand, he is holding an atom of lithium, denoting the scientific breakthroughs of that second millennium, which are in sharp contrast to some of the worst things that happened in the second millennium, like World War I, World War II, constantly on the brink of World War III. At any rate, it was a millennium of great contrast, good and bad. I like to point out that he chose, although he chose lithium because it was easiest to portray with some wire, simple atom, I point out that it also symbolizes medical breakthroughs where we started to understand the condition of bipolarity and that many of us could use a little lithium therapy now and then. Sign me up. Okay, for the third millennium, he and everybody else at that time didn't know what the third millennium was going to bring, but he thought that he should choose a woman because as the givers of life, they represented an optimism that he thought should be embraced. He also then got a chance to go back to his lifelong artistic orientation of the female nude. And I still don't know how he talked her into it, but his model was a former Miss Vallarta, who was the first one to go on and win the state contest, Miss Jalisco. Didn't get far in the Miss Mexico competition, but still the best we've ever had. And he has her flying towards the downtown center of the town plaza of Puerto Vallarta, reaching for a dove of peace. Usually there's a bird on top. Let me remind you that the sculptures are here 24/7, so if you have to take a photo, make it really quick or come back later. We've got a pretty long distance to go, so that would help us make it a manageable amount of time. At any rate, we'll try to find shade for you to sit in when we can. It's not always available. Okay, this sculpture is called Origin and Destiny by a locally based artist, Pedro Tello, a man of very modest means. He took 12 years raising money to cast these 5 pieces. He initially wanted to do 9, and he had to just wrap it up. He was running out of time, energy, and money. Thing you don't know is the city didn't buy any of this. The artist not only donated the artistic content, they had to come up with a way to pay for the very expensive foundry costs to cast these pieces, tens of thousands of dollars in many cases. At any rate, what does it all mean? Well, the important thing is what it means to you. But remembering the title, Origin and Destiny, and the fact that there's an hourglass in the middle of it, leads me to believe that it's an examination of time and our presence on the planet from birth to death. There are quantum physicists who theorize that when the Big Bang happened, the event, not the series, time went in both directions. The direction we're experiencing now, but also in reverse, which is what I normally feel until my second cup of coffee every day. At any rate, the fact that, you know, the boat is just a fragment, the whale is stretched out, the tower is knotted and stretched, kind of, in my mind, is an examination of the mysteries of time, which books, movies, TV series have explored throughout our lives. The figure over here, he was never able to add the other 4 pieces, but he has made modifications. The Chimera fantasy figure, he added the strings to make it a harp. The hourglass was originally fiberglass. You couldn't see through it. He put in the glass one and it had water running through it. Eventually the plumbing kind of screwed up. The whale, initially, when you depressed the tongue, water would come up that spout, go back down the grate, and recycle with a pump. That doesn't work either. Hopefully, if you need them, the public bathrooms down below are working, but I can't guarantee it. Okay, any questions about that? Sculpture, you'd move the circle and it would go back and forth for a minute or so. People were a little too exuberant. It cracked them out. They took it away and fixed it, and when they brought it back, it was solid.
I'm trying to find some shade, but there isn't a lot of shade. Maybe here, I don't know. What do you think? But you all need some sun, right? That's why you're here.
A crab or a lobster, right?
You know, I used to be white. Oh yeah, this is a spider, yeah. You're right. People sometimes confuse it with a crab, but it is a spider, yeah. So this is nostalgia. Nostalgia, Gary's favorite sculpture. He is actually going to explain this sculpture to you because there's a wonderful love story behind these two. And he's the only one who can really tell that story well. So at the end of the tour, we're going to go to his gallery and he's going to show you a miniature and tell you all about it. But as of now, just know, this is the second oldest sculpture on the Malecon. Do you know what the oldest is?
Drone.
Oh, the drone, yeah. Do you know what the oldest sculpture on the Malecon is? The oldest sculpture in town, actually. There's one sculpture, the only one that the city actually paid for. Because as Gary said, all the others have been donations. But the first sculpture, the city paid for, and it has become the most popular, that's the seahorse. The seahorse, which we're going to see later. That was bought by the city. They put it on the Malecon in 1976. That was the first one. This one came in 1984, and it was the first donation by a local artist, Gary's personal friend for a long, long time, Ramis Barquet. And that's him, Ramis and his wife, Nelly. And the story behind this is amazing, so we're gonna save that to Gary, okay? But just so you know, it's such a wonderful love story that people come, lovers especially, and touch their legs for good luck. That's why their legs are so shiny. Yeah, you know, the shiny spots on the sculptures are considered part of the beauty of the pieces by many artists because they want you to interact with them. And in this case, lovers come to touch their legs so that their relationships will last forever. So you might as well. If you don't have one, go ahead and touch them more. Yes, yeah, if you want. Anyway, now you know, nostalgia sculpture, and many people's favorite, because it's one of the most unique, one of the weirdest looking sculptures. Actually, most of the sculptures on the Malecon are pretty weird looking, right? If you look at them, they're pretty surreal. And you know why? That's because most of the artists who have donated art for the Malecon are magical realists. I mean, they belong to this artistic movement called magical realism, which is a Latin American version on surrealism. And it's not only sculptures, it's paintings and literature. There are lots of great artists that are magical realists, Mexican, Latin American. This is magical realism at its best. I mean, look at him. What is he? What is he doing? What is he eating? What do you think?
Eggplant.
Most people say eggplant, and they call him the eggplant man. But he's not eating an eggplant. What else? An avocado? No. Mango? No.
Piedra.
Una piedra, sí. Are you cheating? Who said piedra? Ah. What does that mean, piedra? A piedra, a rock. Actually, the name of this piece, The Rock Eater, El Come Piedras. Actually, the full name, The Subtle Rock Eater, by Jonas Gutierrez, a local artist from Guadalajara. Most of the artists who have donated art for the Malecon are from here, from Jalisco, from Vallarta or from Guadalajara. Most of them. There's a couple from Mexico City and there's a couple of Americans. But most of them are from here. This guy is from Guadalajara. He's a young artist. He made this and a replica for Guadalajara. It's a rock eater. He's eating rocks. It's a rock eater. But by the way, this is a very unique piece, not only because it's a rock eater, but especially because it's bronze and something else. What's that belly made of? What do you think? It's not glass. Onyx? No. Similar to onyx. It starts with an O also. Obsidian. It's a whole piece of obsidian rock. Volcanic rock from an area here. Yeah. Very valuable piece. Bronze and obsidian. Very unique. So now you know, the famous rock eater. But it's pretty. Many people confuse this with the seahorse. But of course it's not a seahorse, right? It is a horse. Yes. What kind of horse? A unicorn. Yes. I mean, its horn is not that big, but there it is. It's a young unicorn. El unicornio de la buena suerte. The unicorn of good fortune and good luck. That is the name of this piece by another Mexican artist, Aníbal Ribling from Guadalajara. Beautiful piece. Since this is the unicorn of good fortune and good luck, people wanted to come and touch it for good luck. Right here, you see? You can tell the shiny parts. The problem with this piece, it has texture, it has design. Actually, if you go a little closer, you can see that it's not smooth. There's a texture. So when the pandemic happened and the city started rearranging stuff, they brought this one here. There used to be another here, another sculpture, which is now next to the seahorse. The mermaid. I don't know if you've seen the mermaid. There's a mermaid and a merman. We're going to see that later. That used to be here. They took it over there so it could be next to the seahorse and the dolphins. You know, because that made more sense. And they brought this here. It's a very pretty, unique piece. The name of the piece is Naturaleza como Madre, or Mother Nature. Mother Nature, we call it. Mother Nature. I call it Surfer Mom. Because I think she looks like a woman surfing, or like a wave that turns into a woman. But it's actually called Naturaleza como Madre. Nature as Mother, actually. Nature as Mother. By a local artist from Mexico City. Adrián Reynoso. This piece is unique, not only because it's pretty, but also because it's not completely made of bronze. All of the sculptures are made of bronze. You know, Gary was mentioning bronze is cheaper in a way, but you still need to pay thousands of dollars, you know, to come up with a piece like this. So artists have to find other materials sometimes so that they don't have to spend a lot of money. So if you look at this piece, this is bronze, but this is not. Actually, now that you know, you look at it, it looks more like a surfboard because it's made of fiberglass. And if you touch it, it's fiberglass. And if you look at it from close, yeah, it looks like a surfboard. It's, you know, lighter and cheaper. It's probably the most interactive group of sculptures on the Malecon. It's also the largest and one of the most beautiful and strange looking sculpture installations. We call them installations when it's more than one. In this case, it's 16 pieces, 8 big ones and 8 little ones, 8 adults, 8 children, 8 adults having a meeting, a conversation. Some of them getting along, facing each other, others not getting along. The children surrounding the adults watching. The children are watching. Yeah, the name of this piece, La Rotonda del Mar. The rotunda or the roundabout of the sea. La Rotonda del Mar, by one of the most important Mexican magical realists, still alive. Alejandro Colunga. Alejandro Colunga from Guadalajara. The Mexican, also a painter, he's also a sculptor. He always makes this kind of sculptures. Chairs. Actually, not really chairs, thrones. The artist believes that these are thrones. Yeah, come and take a look at the thrones. You're supposed to find your throne. You're supposed to sit on all of the chairs and find your throne, the one that best suits you. I like that one. I think that's the one that goes with me. Yeah, but you can be honest. Who has climbed this ladder? Right? Yeah, it's mostly people over 40, 50, 60, baby boomers who climb the ladder, sometimes all the way to the top. You shouldn't do that. I mean, you're welcome to climb that high, but not all the way to the top. I've seen adventurous people do that. That's kind of dangerous, you know. You can interact with them, but you should be careful, right? This is one of the most interactive. I think that's the most because of all the pieces. But this is one of the most interactive, one of the most photographed, unique looking sculptures, and again, magical realism by another very important Mexican magical realist, also still alive, who, by the way, has his own art gallery right here around the corner from the Church of Guadalupe, Sergio Bustamante. Sergio Bustamante, very famous Mexican artist from the state of Sinaloa, but famous all over Mexico and all over the world. He always makes alien people. Many people call him the alien people, the pillow people, because the characters he makes always have big, unique faces, shaped faces. So we call them the aliens or the pillow people. This one also has a plaque. If you come a little closer, you can actually see it. What's the name of the piece? La Lluvia. Lluvia, which means rain. This is actually the newest addition to the Malecon, the newest sculpture that the city put in this section, on this section of the Malecon, because there's a couple of new sculptures at the end of the Malecon dos by the park in the romantic zone. You've probably seen a new donkey, the drunk donkey, and a couple others. So, but those are considered the Malecon dos sculptures. But on this, on this section of the Malecon, this is the newest. They actually put this one here on December 20th, 2020, the year of the pandemic. They put it here at the end of the year when tourism was starting to come back after 8 or 9 months of dead tourism. You remember that time? Vallarta was actually a pretty good place during the pandemic, except for the fact that we didn't have any tourism. But at the end of the year 2020, tourism started coming back, and now it's higher than ever, by the way. And when that happened, when tourism started coming back, in order to welcome tourists to the city, they installed this here. It's a local artist, it's a local guy welcoming the people with open arms. This is the main section of the Malecon, so most people walk this at least once, and they decided to put this here to welcome people with open arms, but also to welcome the rain. That's why the name of the piece is Rain, because you know in the summer it's so hot. This past summer was the hottest summer ever we had, the most humid. We were all almost dying. We couldn't believe how hot it was. And when the rain starts, we welcome it with open arms. And that's what this means too. A guy who is welcoming the rain with open arms. The name of the artist, Jovian or Jovian, another artist from here. It's not Poseidon. It's his son, Triton. I believe Poseidon had many sons. According to the Greek Roman mythology, the king of the seas, no? Poseidon and his sons. This is one of his sons, Triton, and a mermaid, a Nereie. That is the name of this piece, Triton and Nereie, which means a merman and a mermaid, basically, right? Poseidon's son and Poseidon's son's girlfriend. The trident is not bronze. The whole sculpture is made of bronze, except for the trident, which is stainless steel. It used to be bronze, but they stole it 4 times. 4 times. So the 5th time, the artist said, you know what, I'm going to do a stainless steel one, and now nobody wants it. It's perfect. Now it's still there. This piece was made by an artist from Mexico City, and it was paid for by the state of Jalisco. Actually, the seahorse and this are the only 2 sculptures that have been paid for by a government body, because all the others are donations. The state of Jalisco made 2, one for Vallarta and one for another beach town south of the state, which is called Barra de Navidad. It's another small coastal village where they have another one like this. If you ever go south of the state, go check out those towns. They're incredibly beautiful beach towns, still very virgin, very small. This is the most popular sculpture in town, right? The most famous, the oldest, one of the most beautiful, the most photographed, the one that has become the city's official icon, the logo of the city, right? If you Google Puerto Vallarta, you're going to find that seahorse or that crown. We actually have 2 main icons, 2 icons of the city, the seahorse and the crown. Let's talk about the seahorse first. It's not just a seahorse. It's a boy wearing a hat on his back who happens to be naked, riding a seahorse. What does it mean? Because it has a meaning, right? It's the first sculpture the city put on the Malecon. The only one they have ever paid for. They commissioned an artist to make the seahorse, and they paid for it. What does it mean? Any idea? What do you call a Mexican hat?
Sombrero.
Right? He has a sombrero on his back. Because he's a boy, it's a small sombrero. But the boy is from Guadalajara. It's the artist himself who is from Guadalajara, Rafael Samarripa. Now in his 70s. But when he made this, not even 18. He was a child prodigy, a very young artist, sculptor, painter, choreographer. He actually later became a very famous choreographer. He's in his 70s now, but he's still alive. He made this in 1960. 1960. Actually, not this one, the original, because this is the replica. We have another seahorse. The original seahorse was made in 1960, and they put it on Los Muertos Beach. Have you ever been that far, Los Muertos Beach? Well, if you walk all the way to the end of the Malecon, and then you go to Los Muertos Beach, and you walk to the end, you're gonna find the original seahorse, which is the same as this, a little smaller, but basically the same. It's on a pedestal made of rocks, right over there. They made it in 1960. Rafael Samarripa made it. The city paid for it. They put it over there, but then a storm came and knocked it over, and they had to take it to repair, and they stole it. Can you imagine somebody stealing the seahorse? The dolphins over there, the fountain of the dolphins, it's a fountain, but it almost never has water. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it has lights. Sometimes it has water or light. Every now and then, both, which is great. We make a party when that happens. But it is a fountain, the fountain of the dolphins, the dancing dolphins, or many people call it the fountain of friendship, because that fountain, that sculpture, was a gift from the city of Santa Barbara, California, to Vallarta. They gave it to Puerto Vallarta 20 years ago when we became sister cities. There's a program by the US government, a sister city program, and the first sister city of Puerto Vallarta was Santa Barbara, California. Now we have more than 25 sisters. We have a lot of sisters and brothers. But that was the first one. So an artist from Santa Barbara, James Bottoms, who already died, unfortunately, very recently, he made two of those, one for us and one for the city of Santa Barbara, California. And it used to be over there, actually, by the rain sculpture before the renovation of the Malecon. But then eventually they moved it over there to mark the end of the Malecon, the end of the original Malecon. And it's three dolphins, one face in the sky, another one face in the ocean, another one face in the city, as if joining all the three things together.